Welcome to West Wind, and welcome to the 21st first kickoff. And it's going to be a great year, I'm sure. We've already heard from some great people, some of whom have been supporters for a very long time, some of whom are just getting hooked. And we're going to hear during this kickoff from a lot of other great supporters. Some might surprise you, some new ones. Each one has a message. You've heard some of them. I was asked and scarily given notes to, rather than give you any specific message, to maybe remind everybody of what FIRST is about and what it's always been about. Sometimes that's hard to do in the heat of competition. But when I started this thing, we gave it a name, FIRST. First of all, it doesn't have the word education in it, or jobs, or STEM, or FIRST, for inspiration and recognition of science and technology. The goal, I said it when we started, and I'll say it again, it's a modest goal. We want to change the culture of the United States. I thought it would be much easier than it's turned out to be, but we're making great progress. We are. How do you change a culture? What is a culture? First of all, culture, by definition, is a whole lot of things. There's a lot of people in this country. So when I started, I had a focus. I really did believe that the aspect of culture that I wanted to change was to get this country, and maybe this world, certainly the developed world, refocused on the importance of science and technology, to recognize that, to inspire kids, to convince them of how cool it is. And the great irony to me more than 20 years ago was we are more and more dependent on technology all the time, but we take it for granted, and it's so much like magic that a whole lot of people are less inspired and less aware of technology than they were even in my own lifetime. And I thought that's a really bad sign. It's dangerous. If we don't stay on our game and keep moving, we will fall behind, and we will all regret it. The irony is nothing moves faster than technology, and it's the one place where we can't afford to fall behind. Put that in perspective. We've been at it 20 years. 20 years doesn't seem like a long time to most people. It's longer than the lifetime of all of the kids that are going to compete in this competition this year. None of them were born when we started this thing. On the one hand, it's also incredibly short in the lifetime of technology. I was thinking about that listening to Will. Arts, they don't move that fast. That's not a good or bad, it's a fact. I mean, Romeo and Juliet, what's that, 400 years ago? You skip forward to 1960 from 1660 and you get West Side Story. Boy meets girl, tragedy, same story. So, sports. I mean, think of sports. You know, 60 years ago would be what? The 1950s? You can go turn on television now and look at sporting events. They had slightly different uniforms. Some of it's not as chic as today, but basketball, football, they're pretty much the same. That's 60 years. My grandfather was alive in 1903. My grandfather, who I remember very well, was alive in 1903 when, for the first time, a human being got off the ground and flew in a heavier-than-air powered machine. My grandfather was also alive in 1969 when NASA put a guy on the moon and brought him back. That's one human lifetime. It's astounding how fast technology moves. it's terrifying to think that we may have a culture in which most of the kids aren't keeping up with that, aren't even amazed by that. So I thought we better fix this. How do you do that? How do you change a culture? I started with all the tech companies that need these kids. I started with the tech companies because I thought there's the role models. And we grew pretty well for the first few years, focused on that population. But I always knew the metric for first would be, we've got to be in the popular culture, like sports and entertainment. We've got to be in the hearts and minds of political leaders. We've got to be as much part of the culture as all the other things that, frankly, are distractions. So how are we doing? I normally get up and start giving you specs like, we have 100,000 volunteers and mentors, and we have nearly 60 regionals. We have teams coming from over 60 countries. We have Junior First Lego League and First Lego League and First Tech Challenge and FRC. We got 140 some odd universities and $15 million in scholarships. So I'm not going to tell you any of that this time. I'm going to give you a report card on how I think we're doing after 20 years at the high level. Are we affecting the culture? Well, do we need political involvement, I'd say, to prove that? In the 20 years that FIRST has been around, there have been 4 presidents of the United States. And we all know every year they throw out that first ball of the baseball season. Every year they bring the winners of the World Series or the Super Bowl to the White House. That's a powerful statement about our culture and what's important and what we celebrate. I'm happy to tell you that all 4 of those presidents, 2 Republican, by the way, and 2 Democrats, all 4 of them have brought our winners to the White House. Not bad. So, but you need more than just maybe that symbol of we're important and get recognized. To show you how technology has become more important to every aspect of life, this is the first administration that's had a chief technology officer for the United States. And he's part of this kickoff, and he's committed to FIRST. If there's any symbol of a government agency that's about science and technology, that's the poster child for what technology can do, it's NASA. The chief administrator of NASA, Charlie Bolden, is a huge sponsor of FIRST and a believer, and he's part of this kickoff. And Dave Lavery's out here somewhere. He's a long-time supporter, and as you'll see, as he always does, he's a fantastic part of making this kickoff exciting. But we also, to be part of the culture, we need news coverage. We need popular media. We need humor. Until they're making fun of you on late-night TV, you're not part of our culture. And there's only one credible source of news left in this country, Stephen Colbert. And he's part of this kickoff. And as we expanded hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of technology companies to be part of the culture, we had to start getting to the companies that kids actually buy stuff from every day and visit every day, that are in all the malls. So over the last couple of years, for instance, we got a giant retailer, one of the biggest retailers in the country, JCPenney, whose chairman, Mike Ullman, joined our board. And this year, that retailer is supporting a FIRST team from every community where they have their stores. There will be over 900 JCPenney teams participating this year. And you can't be part of the culture without the entertainment community. And how about for an icon from the world of entertainment, the guy that did last year's halftime show at the Super Bowl, the guy we all saw here do our show last year, will.i.am. He's committed, and I think he's going to bring a lot of the attention of the rest of the entertainment community to help build FIRST. And as long as we're talking about big retailers and the sector of our economy and our business that creates a lot of our culture, they create excitement, they create demand, they create the heroes. Well, there's one company out there that sort of stands unchallenged as the largest supporter of sporting events, the largest sponsor of the International Olympics, the largest sponsor of the World Cup. They're one of the iconic brands in the world. Coca-Cola, their chairman is now committed to helping grow FIRST and make us more known to a whole generation. So. And then some of our forever supporters, but just to remind you that when we become part of the culture, we can't do it at the expense of losing what we are. The guy that brings you things like gracious professionalism, the father of using real-life competitions and excitement to give students a way better understanding of the real world of science and technology and engineering than the classic lecture hall. Woody Flowers. And just representative of some of that great giant industry that we've depended on for mentors and for all the early support and all our continuing growth, the role models that we want to pair our kids up with all the time. The largest sponsor in this state for many years, while he was its chief, and now the CEO of SAIC and the chairman of the board of directors of FIRST, Walt Havenstein. So, to me, I will continue to measure FIRST, and I hope you all remember this in the pitched battles that you're in on those fields. My metric for FIRST isn't which robot won. It's whether we can continue to bring together all the disparate pieces of this very free culture, where people, particularly kids, are free to do whatever they want with their time. Sadly, most of those kids have all that freedom, but maybe not a lot of judgment. And it's easy to distract them in a culture that has lots of distractions. But I'll measure FIRST and our success by whether we continue to bring presidents and government organizations and industry and retailers and media and the arts together to celebrate something that's really important. I know these days everybody talks about, well, it's good because of jobs and it's good because of STEM. And you know, I don't think any great innovator, any great technologist I've met in my own life or I've read about, whether it's Wilbur and Orville or Thomas Edison or back in his day, Galileo, I don't think any of these people got up in the morning trying to do something really big, really innovative, because they wanted a job. I think you don't have to worry. Those people that are in this for that reason, trust me, if we create a generation of passionate, smart, well-educated, informed kids willing to take reasonable risks, educated risks as they try new things, if we create a passionate generation that understands the power of technology and how to apply it, trust me, they'll have jobs. That's a consequence of what they'll have. If FIRST succeeds, what we will have is maybe a rebirth of a society that believes that the future can be, I think it has to be, better than the past. And that can only happen if well-prepared people are willing to focus and work hard solving really big problems. In 1903, getting off the ground was a big deal. I don't think anybody could have even imagined in 1903, when they saw that thing go 100 feet, that they would be alive when we put people on the moon. And I don't think there are too many people in this room that have any grasp on what this world could and should look like in 60 years from today. But I believe it doesn't happen by accident, and it won't happen here in a way that we'll all be proud, unless our culture, a rich, free culture, figures out how to get all these different disparate groups working hard to celebrate the importance and the fun and the accessibility of science and engineering and technology, and convince kids of what they can do with that, and prepare them for what they have to do with that. And that's what FIRST is about. So to all of you that have been doing this for years, I hope you remember that's a much bigger challenge than building the best robot. It's even a much bigger challenge than thinking we're preparing people for jobs. That stuff will take care of itself. I hope you remember that we are on a much bigger mission. We're going to change the culture. We're going to make sure that we build a future, a 21st century that's way more exciting than the 20th century. And I'm counting on everybody that's part of FIRST, this very, very rapidly growing and diverse family, to help us do that. In that regard, it wouldn't be me without homework. And I mentioned a whole bunch of disparate people and organizations, but I did that in part for a reason. If we're going to change the culture as a group called FIRST, people have to know who we are. Will.i.am says he's going to make us loud. What's he going to make loud? FIRST. We don't say the president. It's President Obama or President Bush or President Clinton. It's NASA. We know what NASA is. We didn't say the guys with the rockets. It's not the soft drink company. It's Coke. It's JCPenney. It's Will.i.am. And yet, last year's homework assignment, don't say you're on a robotics team. You're on a FIRST robotics team. You're not in Lego League. You're in FIRST Lego League. You're not on Team 123. You're on FIRST Team 123. How hard is it, people? I asked you to do a good job of promoting our brand. Do it. So the first part of the homework, we have a name. Use it. Be proud of it. Second part of my homework, last year again, now I'll be a little more assertive. We started the Dean's List program. Like all schools that have Dean's Lists and class presidents, mostly they sucker kids into taking that job so that they'll be around to arrange the reunions. They'll be around, right? But FIRST has been really good at growing, but not so good at keeping track of our alumni, which is huge. And it ought to be a very powerful group of people. Most of them now have gone through high school, gone to college, gone into companies, and are in some pretty senior positions in those companies, or have started their own companies. We need all of these people. So we said the way we're going to do it is in every class, we're going to ask you to nominate a couple of students to be on the Dean's List. Nominate juniors. It's going to be really good for their college applications. And colleges really like FIRST. You all know the data on that, but there's a lot of colleges fighting to get access to our kids, and for very good reasons. So, the second part of my homework, please, every team, work hard at identifying a couple of students that you believe are not only exceptional at whatever their function or task is on your team. These are going to be the students that we're going to depend on as they go on next year and throughout their careers to keep the alumni together and growing and involved, because first has to be a loud voice in our culture, and it has to be a whole lot of people. And I think everybody in this room is pretty proud of being involved with FIRST. Let's make the world proud of us. Let's remember they're all going to be watching us over the next 6 or 8 weeks of this season. I look forward to seeing you all at regionals and at the championship. So thank you and good luck. And by the way, I want to remind you about our expanded First Lights initiative that lets you sell LED light bulbs to raise money for your teams. Our light bulb program is a proven success. Last year, 450 teams raised over $500,000. That's over 20% of the money those teams needed. This program is the ultimate in sustainability. Teams can become self-sustaining while creating a cleaner world. This year, we have new LED bulbs that come in 40 and 60 watt equivalents. And they're dimmable. These new bulbs also have a 5-year warranty, something you'll never see on a traditional light bulb. And speaking of guarantees, if you keep making this program a success, I'll keep bringing in the latest and greatest technology to help. You've got my word.